Hillcrest Church video. We hope this message will help you grow.
Well, good morning, church. Happy New Year to you all. I am glad to be here this morning. If you don't know me, I'm one of the pastors. I usually am overseeing the worship here. It was great to be part of the congregation, though, and be able to hear Greg and the team this morning. But I get to do something special today. It's the first time ever in 20 years of ministry that I get to serve and teach with my wife, Kellie. Yeah? Woo! Definitely. So Kellie is, she's a marriage and family therapist. She got her master's back in 2001 and has been serving up here in Whatcom County for a while, doing great work in our community. So we're glad to have you here, Kellie, to help share. I feel like I'm a long ways away from you.
Scoot in.
Yeah, you are my friend. And so she's going to be helping with this teaching today, which is on the theme of depression, warming the frozen sadness. Depression. Yeah. Happy New Year.
Listen here, Carlo. I think that I'm actually really grateful to be part of a church that's willing to bring important issues like this front and center and address them as a community. Studies show that in the last year, 1 in 20 of us have likely had a major depressive episode. And so it's important and valuable that we acknowledge that in this time of Christmas, right, God came as a human baby. Not only does he care about us, he entered into human life and experience with us. And depression is not just a bad attitude. It is one human experience of many. And it's important to understand it.
So help us out. Just give us in a nutshell. What is depression?
Well, early in my career, I had a mentor who gave me a word picture for depression that I've found really helpful, and that is the idea of frozen sadness. So sadness, we all experience the emotion of sadness that sort of like comes, and you might have tears, you might feel tired. It sort of like has a wave to it that you experience it, and then it recedes, and then a new feeling state comes to be. That's not the same thing as clinical depression. There's also grief, which is associated with some kind of loss. So whether that's a loss of a loved one, or a marriage, or even a hope or an expectation that you had about what a certain season of life was going to be like, that's grief. While that can lead to a clinical depression, it is also different from clinical depression. Clinical depression, it feels more, there's a stuckness, there's a frozenness. It's not just a mood, it's a mood state.
Wow, well said. Depression is frozen sadness. This water jug that I brought to Hillcrest on Thursday and put in the freezer.
Yeah.
It started off as room temperature. Put it in the freezer, it started to get cold. And left long enough there, it turned rock solid, ice. I had an experience many years ago serving in ministry as pastor in Seattle. Kellie and I were there serving, and it was going well for a good while until it wasn't. And there came a point where I started feeling regularly frustrated, disappointed, lethargic. I remember sometimes up there leading worship and holding back tears from my eyes, actually having some tears as I sang. I had such a lament of what we were singing versus what I was experiencing. I remember one day when I was sitting at my computer and I'm trying to type an email, and I just couldn't. I decided, okay, I'm going to just get down on my knees or just try and pray. Nothing. After 10 minutes or so, I'm like, I'm in trouble. I've never been here before. I called my friend. He's a fellow pastor, worked there, and I'm like, dude, I'm stuck. Thankfully, he was, hey, I'll be right up. And so there we were talking, and talking was really helpful. Got some clarity, but the clarity was that I needed to quit. Quit being a pastor, at least for now, but maybe forever. I just lost hope. Lost hope in the church that I was serving, but maybe in the church in general. The next 8 months were really hard. I felt despondent, insecure, lethargic, just up and down emotionally. And I don't know, I mean, would you say I was depressed during that time?
Well, we could get a little more clinical and pull out the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
Let's scoop
nice
this
big book.
way.
No, seriously, though, to meet criteria for clinical depression, that sadness that we talked about, that frozen sadness, needs to be that you're experiencing it most of the day, most days for at least 2 weeks. And then there are, really 3 categories of symptoms. So it's the mood, the sadness, and sometimes that shows up as like predominant anger and frustration, even more than sadness, and that's particularly with adolescents and men. So you might miss the depression because somebody just seems really angry all the time. The other categories are your thinking, the way that your thoughts become affected by the depression. And those thoughts tend to center around feeling really low sense of self-worth, feeling hopeless and helpless. So it might sound like, I ruin everything that I touch. My life doesn't matter. Nobody would even care if I was here or I wasn't here. Those sorts of things. And the final category is very physical. And this is where I want to dispel the myth that depression is all in your head. It's not all in your head. It's an actual physical, visceral experience. There's a shutting down that happens. The body goes into a sort of shutdown and collapse. And this can often happen after a period of extreme stress. Not always, but it is often that way. And that physical shutdown will look like not being able to think, not being able to remember. It'll look like not being able to sleep well and feel rested after you do, like sleeping too much or not sleeping enough, but not being rested, being tired all the time. It can look like digestive shutdown, slow down. You're not able to, process. Your metabolism slows down. Your hands can get cold. Your feet can get cold, right? Like the body is shutting down.
Well, shoot, I've got a handful of those symptoms myself. My hands.
Well, you know what they say, right? Cold hands, warm heart. I think you're okay. Yeah.
Okay.
You're all right. To truly diagnose depression, you do need to have a professional involved who can take a thorough history. But I am one. So I'd say that in that season of our lives, Carlo was struggling with a mild depression. And as you're going to see today, as we sort of turn to our biblical text, these sorts of signs and symptoms have shown up even in ancient times.
That's definitely the case in the life of Elijah. That's where we're going to be turning to today. It'll be in 1 Kings chapter 19. If you've got a Bible, you're welcome to turn there. It's about a quarter of the way through, right after 2 Samuel. We'll be in chapter 19 again. And let me set it up for you for a minute. So remember that in the big story of the Bible that we went through a little while back, God had this rescue mission that he'd started long ago. And he involved people in it. He called this nation of Israel to be part of his rescue mission. But consistently, Israel totally missed the mark. They blew it time and time again. And so God would send prophets to speak to the people and confront them and try and turn them back to his rescue mission and to the abundant life that he had promised. So here's this prophet Elijah. He's been called by God to confront the people, and particularly the leadership. And in chapter 19, he's already been through some major traumatic experiences, some life-threatening circumstances that would make any one of us feel really a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. Let's pick it up in here in the early part of chapter 19. This is this evil queen Jezebel, terrible woman, and she's sending a message to Elijah. She says, "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so." Oh, wait. Kelly, you were going to play, can you play Jezebel? Because when I leave the banana peel in the car and I get that voice.
That's okay. I think you're kind of the dramatic one. So.
Touché. All right, I'll dial it back a little bit. May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them. All these other people she'd killed. Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there, while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. He came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. "I've had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Yikes. He's in a bad place emotionally. Kelly, would you say, what would you say from your counseling perspective?
Well, I think the first thing that jumps out at me is like I said, sometimes prolonged stress can lead to a depression. And some of you may have even experienced a little bit of a letdown coming off of the hustle and bustle of the holidays, that kind of stress can leave you vulnerable. When your system's hyper-focused and you're go, 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 and you're going stress, 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 and you don't have adequate rest and restoration and recovery, you can hit that point of overwhelm where your system just starts to say enough.
Yeah. Sometimes our hearts, we're so overwhelmed, we're so shut down. It's like we've gotten to that place of being stuck in icy sadness. And sadly, it can get to that point where we just want an out, like where we can't think there's any possible hope but in death. Just get me out of here. Mm-hmm. I mean, Elijah prays that he might die. Anyone been there, honestly? Was he suicidal? That may be going a bridge too far, but he certainly was really despondent. And I know both of us have had suicide hit close enough to us that we feel like we have to say something about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Suicide is a real issue. And the truth is that suicide attempts and completions have increased over the last 10 years for every age group, particularly for those who are socially marginalized and disconnected. We don't have time really to delve deep here into suicide. I'd probably need like 6 hours if we were going to, really talk adequately about suicide. But it is a symptom of more severe depression. So Elijah expresses this wish that God would just end his life, just take him home. The text doesn't tell us that he's planning to kill himself and take matters into his own hands. But there is a spectrum to suicidal ideation, and that spectrum begins more where Elijah's at, this kind of escape fantasy. Like, I wish something would just happen. I just wish I wasn't here anymore. And if you're having those kind of thoughts, or someone close to you is, it's important to intervene then, because those thoughts will most likely progress to more severe thoughts of suicide that look like, how would I do it? When would I do it? At what point would I do it? It's a progression. So I just want you to know that if you are having those kinds of thoughts that say that your life doesn't matter, it does. Those are lies straight from the deepest pit. And I think Carlo and I and the rest of the pastoral staff want everyone to know here that we care about you, you belong, and any thought to the contrary is a lie. One thing that we did prepare for you is a resource list. I thought I had one up here. Oh, there we go. Is a resource list. And they're going to be up here on your way out the door and at the information booth. And included on that resource list is the suicide prevention line. And I can tell you they are fantastic at that suicide prevention line. I've called them multiple times when I'm sitting with people who are struggling. Put the call on speaker and get the help that you need, get connected.
That's so good that there's help out there.
Yeah, they're
And we don't
awesome.
have to know, I don't have to be an expert myself.
No.
I just call this number and
That's
I can
right.
get the help.
Just reach out.
Yeah, thanks for leading us down that path of being able to talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at what happens next after Elijah has voiced his desire to die. Let's see what happens in verse 5. Then he laid down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once, an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then lay down again. Notice the significance of the physical body. First, he slept. And not on a posturepedic, sleep country, memory foam bed. I mean, he's like, oh, there's a rock. That looks like a good pillow. He's exhausted. He's a physical being. He's not just some superhero. We're all physical beings. We're not just these spirits going around who can go to the utmost lengths and endure anything and not have it affect us physically. And then what does God provide after sleep? Just those simple things of food and water. Again, getting enough food and water, and not like junk food, which is what, when you're in a rush, when you're feeling anxiety, you just grab whatever you can, right? And not just, oh, I'm so tired, I need coffee, so just, keep downing the coffee, which is dehydrating you, and, all those sorts of things. I mean, I know we know this stuff, but we miss it in the midst of the moment. When we're stressed, we forget these simple things. And it can lead to that place of overwhelming, feeling shut down, and then suddenly we're stuck in ice. The icy cold of frozen sadness. So after eating, what's Elijah do? he doesn't get up and go. It's more, he's sleeping again. He's still tired. He's catching up. And then when he wakes, what does God do? He's not like cracking the whip. Okay, now, you've had enough. Let's go back to the mission. No, he cares for Elijah. He understands that he is human. He's frail. He's got limitations. And so God makes sure that he eats again. Eat, manja. He's taking care of his servant. And it's after that he can finally get on the move. But God, he cares about all of us. We have to remember that. He's not just some taskmaster up in heaven, some drill sergeant. I love the verse from 1 Peter 5:7. He urges us to cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. He cares for you.
Yeah, he cares for us, and I think what's maybe even more implicit is that Elijah's not alone. He's with him. He cares, but he's also with him, and that's a model for us as a church, to let people know who are struggling and in this place that they are not alone. We are with you. We see you. We care. We're not afraid to hear how you're feeling or how you're doing. Many of us have been the beneficiaries of holiday baskets or the food bank or even meal trains after we've lost a loved one or even after having a new baby, which, that's a very, very vulnerable time for women to develop depression, is actually having a baby. And so we see in this passage that it's the work of angels to be bringing nourishment to Elijah. And I think this community also demonstrates this angelic work of caring for the needs of one another in that way.
That is so good. Yeah. Yes. I love that too. It is such a great thing that Hillcrest is involved in that simple feeding of people. Yeah. Makes a big difference. Well, back in the story of Elijah, he's out of the woods, so good news. He's gotten the help, but now he's going to travel for 40 days. Whew. And he ends up in a cave. Not the best. Lonely, dark, cold. Elijah, are you sure that's where you want to end up, in a cave? There he is. Thankfully, God doesn't come up. What are you doing here? Why are you in a cave? You should be out there on the front lines. No, he cares for him. Again, he reveals himself to Elijah. He speaks tenderly to him. And he reminds him that he's not alone. Check out down in verse 18. He says this, "Yet I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal." Because Elijah, in his mind, he's like, I'm the only one left. I'm all alone. Nobody cares about me. I'm stuck. It's just me and you, God. And God's like, no, it's not. There's 7,000 others. Mm-hmm. Real flesh and blood people who care. It's not just you and me, Elijah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Elijah felt like he was alone, but he wasn't alone, he was disconnected. And just as God reminded Elijah, we're here this morning to remind you that while you might feel totally alone in a room of hundreds of people, you're not alone. There are ways to come out of the isolation and the frozenness that depression might have you in, and you can connect. We care about your exhaustion and your sadness. And that connection, I'm going to say, looks like face-to-face, eye-to-eye, hand-to-shoulder, heart-to-heart, is important human-to-human connection. knowing that another human being is there with you. As we draw to a close, I encourage you in one way or another to take a step out of that place of frozenness if that's where you find yourself, and get connected.
Yeah, right on. We have two ways in particular that we're encouraging you to do that, us as a community. First is to tell a trustworthy person what is going on. Tell them. Just like Kellie says, it's simple. Maybe it's a pastor. You're welcome to talk with one of us after the service. We're going to be up here. There's other pastoral staff. There's tons of people who are mature and care in this community. But also it could be, secondly, digging deeper into community. It's an ounce of prevention is
worth a pound of cure.
Is worth a pound of cure, yeah. Mm-hmm. So if we can start off in community, that can help to fight depression from coming in the first place. Right. We're going to be hearing this whole next month about small groups here in Hillcrest. It's a vital part of our church. And so if you're not in one, please pay attention. Grab. There's going to be a sheet available. You can also, even if today you want to look into it and say you're interested, just put that on the community card that's in the seat back in front of you, and we'd love to help get you connected. I love this quote by my esteemed colleague and wife. As we were making this sermon, she had written something that was going to be her words, but I thought, I'm going to say it because it's good. And I got to say something good up here. When it comes to depression, coming out of isolation is both prevention and cure. When it comes to depression, coming out of isolation is both prevention and cure. So these small groups, they're not meant to be the lifeline, but to supplement. They're meant to be a great and safe place for community. But hey, let me add that it's not unspiritual to see a therapist. I actually see one every day. But seriously, it's been helpful to be married to her. Take that step. Take that step. Proverbs is full of exhortations to seek counsel.
Yeah, when the ice was closing in on Carlo in that story that he shared, he was able to call our friend Rich, which was, really valuable. But not everyone feels like they have someone in their life who they can open up with for various reasons and safely confide in. So if you don't have someone in your life that you feel like you want to take that step with, I would really encourage you to reach out to a counselor or even your medical doctor who can assess for medication and help you get connected to a counselor. I really had fun developing this connections resource list because I know different therapists in the area who are also believers, and so I just reached out to them individually and told them that we were doing this sermon this morning and said, would you feel comfortable with me, letting people know that you're a believer and putting your name on this list? And the response that I got was so awesome. They just came back enthusiastic, like, yes, put my name on that list. Let people know that I'm here. And that I am a believer and that I understand, whether you're struggling with your faith or it's a resource, it's definitely welcome in the therapy room. So I did also want to add, though, because I wanted to get permission from people before I put their name on the list, some people didn't get back to me in time to actually put their name on the list. So I'm going to give a well-deserved spotlight to Deb Ivankovich, who a lot of you know. I got the message to her a little late, and so she didn't get back to me until Friday, but she said, yes, please include me on that list. And then Mike Black as well, who some of you know. He said that he would actually prefer to be noted for being a semi-famous left-handed heavy metal rock drummer.
Yeah.
But he's also a Christian
Mike.
therapist, so, we can acknowledge him for that too. So his name isn't on there, but you can Google him, and he's got a website, and that'll pop up. So yes, on your way out the door, or you can take one from up here or grab one on the way out for yourself, a friend. There's also some resources if you only have state insurance. I know sometimes it can be hard to get connected to a therapist if your insurance is limited. So there's some information on that as well.
Great. Thanks for doing the work to
Yeah.
get us that list. And that's something you could tuck in your Bible even, just kind of, or put someplace for down the road if you could be a help to somebody, even if you don't need that right now. So for us, Hillcrest, for those of us who aren't struggling with depression right now, the word for us that I hope we would hear, is that we would be this caring community that is hospitable, welcoming, an environment where you can't see how much this is beginning to thaw, but there's a big puddle up here. This ice just being in this room. And the more that we are that kind of community that reaches out, if you're healthy enough to smile at somebody, shake a hand, ask them how they're doing. The conversation starts from there. And we can't be there for everybody, but to be this kind of warm community that people enter into and find life here, that is so vital to us as the kind of church that we're wanting to become and to continue to be. We want to be warm. A warm people who can help heal the frozen sadness and thaw that freeze, that cold. So the worship team comes up, we're going to pray, and then we'll respond in worship. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to share your message, your truth, to deal with a real world issue that is hurting many people. And it reminds me of that, the one who comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Yet you came to bring us abundant life. So, Lord, we pray that this community, that you would help anyone who is struggling right now, even today, that you'd help them to get unstuck, to move out of that place of frozen sadness, and to begin to find some hope. Even today would be that warmth of hope from your word, from the message that you gave to Elijah. That people would be able to see there's a light out there. Even if I feel like I'm in total darkness, there is a hope for me. And that this community would help each one of us to hold on, to look to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks for connecting with Hillcrest Church. For more info on this and other sermons, visit us online at hcbellingham.com or join us at 9 or 11 a.m. any Sunday morning, 1400 Larrabee Ave, Bellingham, Washington.